Good morning and welcome back to the 15-minute Mindset Magic. As we begin today's session, I want us to recognize that there is a subtle yet powerful force that's really hindering your growth. I like to call that the mildew of stagnation. And it's a metaphor that we can sort of investigate in our lives what's really going on. And to notice that, you could easily see that something is becoming a little bit dirtier than it should be. Specifically, your own life and places where we get to fall on the wayside with our dreams. We stop setting new goals. We fall into the pit of procrastination. And life becomes this uncomfortable state where we constantly try and catch up. So instead of trying to catch up, we can look at this this state or this mildew buildup as something that we could catch before it happens, or we could prevent before it starts settling into the cracks of our lives. Now, where your life begins to look like a little bit of mildew, what steps do we need to take to rid ourselves? Now, in this is a real danger that the stagnation will happen and we will look the other way. We will forget to challenge ourselves. We will forget to do the work to get rid of the mildew. And sometimes we will even try and let other people do all the work of scraping away the mildew and forget that we need to see that we need to take that spatula and scrape it away, that we need to be the people who actually take care of the mildew in our lives and not wait for somebody else to push us to do that cleaning process. So a quick overview of gratitude practices, like I just said, a reframing challenge for yourself. We are going to talk about mindfulness, positive surroundings, realistic goals, self-compassion, a sense of humor, physical activities that sometimes do include procrastination, and then how to become solution focused. And I also want you to remember that you can seek out support. If you're on one of my email lists, you are more than welcome to reach out for support if you need it. And the topics we'll talk about is the challenge of mildew in our lives, the danger of stagnation, the temptation of that constant procrastination thing calling you away and taking you from your attention. I'll mention my little eat that frog analogy that I learned from Brian Tracey. And we'll also talk about your vision being demised, the importance of your timely action on things, and also some new or maybe ideas that you haven't been able to tap into, is to take a next step, and that we are here together in this life creating. And we're creating this based on the values in our lives. And the 8 values I often talk about, and if you don't know these yet, they are gratitude, compassion, personal truth, or in other words, authenticity. There is connection, not only to yourself, but a connection to whatever you are doing, a connection to the people around you, and a connection to that thing that you love so much. It's that passion that drives everything in your life. Mindfulness is one of those beautiful things you get to share with yourself every day and calm your entire neurology down to a point where you can focus, right? Then your purpose. I always like to think of it as something that aligns with what I'm doing for my life, what I'm doing for my career, and what I'm doing for other people. And then the eighth value for life is resilience. And when you've had a setback, or whether those weeds and mildew just come along and mess up your day, what's really important is that you stay resilient amongst all the things that you could possibly do to keep yourself happier and more in line with the life you want. Resilience stands on top of the list, where all the things you want can align with these values. And of course, you can have your own values. These are just 8 basic values that I've brought into our community and into the lifestyle I want to live. Now, there is this temptation of falling into the pit of procrastination. And the key here is I want you to be very mindful of your time and notice when you step into stages of procrastination. When do you let unworthy tasks take over your day-to-day operations? Or even if you made a promise to yourself, what are you doing that's preventing you from making sure you really take on that step that needs to be done? When is procrastination becoming a thief of your time? And when can you jump back on and catch yourself and say, hey, I'm not busy with this, I am busy with this, and bring your attention to this thing. Yes, those other things can wait. They can be done later. You can ask somebody to help you with those things. But the main focus needs to be, where are you going? How are you going to get there? And doing the things to go, right? Keep going. In reflection, of course, you can't just work all the time. You really have to make sure that there's a balance between the things you have to do now, the things you need to do for tomorrow's seeds to grow. And in that reflective process, or the time alone that, like I call the mindful sketchbook practices, in those mindful sketchbook practices, you have to sit down and be honest with yourself. Am I now in a time where I need to rest and create something fun? Am I now in a time where I need to plan for the next day or the next week or the next month? Am I now in a place where I need to clean? Am I in a place where I need to shut down and be on my own without the external stimulation? It's knowing how to catch yourself, knowing how important your time is, and then knowing how to master that timing of becoming your own best self, and knowing yourself on such a level that you can catch yourself and bring yourself back to the point where you get to do the work you need to do. You could neglect the cleaning process, of course, but you'll soon realize that the buildup just becomes more and more, and pretty soon you'll have to scrape some things away that previously weren't that bad, but it became bad because we lose focus of our vision if there's too many things clouding our vision and our judgment. And in this risk of the vision demise, it's like neglecting a plant and letting it die, letting it dry out and not bring forth the seeds for the next season. When we can reflect on our dreams, reflect on our vision, and make sure that we do small little things every single day that gradually drive us towards the things we need to do, you'll find so much more time to do the other fun things as well. You know, by all means, if you've done all the hard work, switch your procrastination mode on and go into your life and do what you just procrastinate on. But be very, very careful that you don't forget to eat those frogs. And I'll give you a reminder. I read a book by Brian Tracey called Eat That Frog, and I created a little note to myself every day. My little frog is on top of my timer. So I've got a block timer, and my little frog sits on top of this timer. And it's a reminder for me to eat that frog. And what that analogy means is I have to do the difficult thing first. And as hard as it is, you really have to keep that promise to yourself. You have to do that important thing, because the whole day can go by and you could be busy. You could be doing all kinds of things. You could be spending hours tinkering on something. But there's a real risk that that won't get done if you don't keep your focus, if you don't eat those frogs. And if you're doing the most important thing first thing in the day, then everything else is so much more effortless. And we don't have to spend our free time resenting the fact that we're always working, or resenting the fact that others are doing fun things while we are struggling along in the things we need to do. And the same goes for you at work. If you've got a certain responsibility as a manager, or a company CEO, or even if you're just one of the smaller people in the company, you have to learn to do your part, and do your part first, so that you can have time to stand at the cooler and talk nonsense and have a nice, relaxed lunch break, or feel confident enough to ask your boss to take off for an afternoon. We owe it to ourselves to make our visions important and not let them go to waste. This is your life. And if you are not in control of it, it means somebody else is in control of it. And if you are facing this challenge of the mildew taking over your life, I want you to remember two things. First, you are the one that needs to scrape away the mildew and do the prep work so that it doesn't grow again. And number two, every time you take a step forward, you are entering into the life you are creating. And if you're doing those two things, you are on a path where you dictate the journey, where you do all the things that you love doing, and of course, where you get to act out the life that you want to live. It is nobody's fault that things go a little nasty or a little bit mildewy, if that could be a phrase for us to remember. The promise you make is that spray of mildew removal, and the actions you take is the scraping away of the stuff that does not need to be there, that's clouding your vision and stopping you from moving forward. All of these 15-minute mindset strategies are just small stepping stones into things that could come next for you. Now, whether you are facing mildew, whether you are procrastinating, whether you are seeking something to focus on, I have 6 practices that you could practice every single day, not one after the other. It's choose one and work on that project for the day, and use one of those 6 practices to get yourself in a frame of mind so that you can feel like you've nurtured your own desires. And then, as a final thing, one of the practices I've kept for myself, that is not part of the other 6, but it's something I need to do. And I want to encourage you to also do the same, because going for a daily walk, whether it's to the corner shop or whether it's to the little park behind the house or whether it's a stroll in your own garden, that walk helps you to connect to what's outside of you. Because if you're stuck in your office, stuck indoors, stuck with that same energy, the best way for you to disconnect to that for a little bit and find a new connection is to go out and connect with nature. All right. I hope you enjoyed today's 15-minute mindset magic, and I'll see you in next week's one. All right. Bye.